Well, for more on this, we're joined now by Akiva Eldar. He's a political analyst and contributor to the Haaretz newspaper. Great to have you back with us, Akiva. We know that pressure is mounting on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his far-right cabinet to reach a ceasefire deal. But even though the protests have been growing in size, those calls have fallen on deaf ears. What will it take, do you think, to actually get Netanyahu and his ministers to start to listen to these demonstrators who have been gathering en masse?
Right now, Netanyahu has got the solid 64 fingers that will vote for anything that he wants. He can offer as much money as the Orthodox need. He offers the radical right members of Knesset, ministers, whatever they want, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. At the same time, the only thing that can help the opposition to bring him down is what they're trying to do is to find cracks in the coalition, probably inside the Likud, and maybe even among the Orthodox parties. There are 5 or 6 members of the Likud that, off the record, they would tell you that they are very worried, not only about the whereabouts of the captives, it's also about the threat of a regional war. What we saw today in Jordan adds up to what the people in the Israeli north are getting. It's the threats from Iraq, from the Houthis, and the deteriorating relationship with the United States. So I believe that even if we will have 1 million people in the streets, and we are getting close to this, the constituency of Netanyahu that believe that it's a kind of, I would say, a cult that will follow him wherever he goes, down to abyss. They will admire him. So, it's either the opposition will be able to this, or the High Court will get involved. As we know, a few weeks from now, December 2nd, Netanyahu will have to spend at least 3 days a week in a courtroom answering questions about corruption. And there will be appeals of human rights, civil rights organizations that will argue that, especially now in the time of war, the prime minister cannot fulfill his duties and should step down.
We know protesters are calling for an immediate hostage and ceasefire deal. One of the key demands from Hamas for such a deal is for Israel to withdraw its troops from the Philadelphia corridor, this strip of land between Gaza and Egypt. Security chiefs in Israel, including the Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, are reportedly open to this idea of an alternative to maintaining a troop presence in that corridor. Why then is Netanyahu and his far-right allies doubling down on maintaining this presence in the Philadelphia corridor, which is holding up any potential truce deal?
Well, I call it the Philadelphia spin. If it was not Philadelphia, he would find something else. He would say that he is not happy with the list of Hamas prisoners that Israel has to release. I remember when we got a bit closer in the negotiations with the Palestinians on the final settlement, he found another pretext to stop it. He said that they have to recognize Israel as the sole state of the Jewish people. So, as you mentioned, Oscar, the Israeli security establishment can keep saying that we can live without controlling Philadelphia, as we did, between 67 until the after the disengagement from Gaza. Israeli troops were not present. The problem is the Hamas transition. The weapons were smuggled through through Rafah, and Netanyahu is sticking to his demands because he knows that Hamas will not accept them and that there will not be a deal. A deal means for him the end of the Netanyahu political era. It means that he will be on his way to jail. And his personal interest and his party's interest come first. This is very unfortunate, Oscar, but this is the reality.
So do you believe that Benjamin Netanyahu and perhaps his far-right ministers have made the calculation that sacrificing the remaining Israeli hostages in Gaza is a price that they're willing to pay?
Actually, they already paid the price. Israel, the Israeli public, the people that you see in the streets, Oscar, are not going to vote for Netanyahu. He lost them. Not only the people from the left side of the map, he lost the center. According to the polls, the Likud is in a good day down from 32 to 23 seats in the Knesset. And what Netanyahu is doing right now is he keeps dividing and ruling. If you are not supporting him, his policy, if you take to the streets, and even Gallant, who believes that Israel can and should make a deal with Hamas, you support Sinwar. There is a zero-sum game that he is playing. There is nothing in the middle. He knows that the end of the war means that he has to offer something for the day after. And the day after, according to President Biden's policy, it's the PLO, the PA, going back to the Oslo process. And to remind you, on the 13th of September this week, we will mark 31 years to the signing of the Oslo Agreement. And the Americans still believe that it's possible. Now, Netanyahu is also in a countdown for the American elections, hoping that he will have President Biden back in the White House. And as we know, he was able to manipulate him to pull out from the nuclear deal with Iran. And Netanyahu believes that he will be able to manipulate him to allow Israel to stay in Gaza and in the West Bank as long as he wants.
Yeah, so you mentioned the anniversary of the Oslo Accords. As a side note, it's interesting to remind our viewers that it was Benjamin Netanyahu himself back in 1995 who was organizing protests against the Accord and against Yitzhak Rabin himself. We'll leave it there for now. Akiva Eldar, thank you so much for joining us as always.
Thank you, Oscar.